Let me just briefly indicate that I didn't have form on opposing the NHS privatisation. I advised both the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats on equal competition policy, in which I'm supposed to be a bit of an expert, relating to the NHS, when they were challenging the original Lansley bill. And I agree with what people are saying about the history of this bill, because John Redwood, Oliver Letwin, Andrew Lansley, all these people were involved in this for a long, long time, many years. And I also worked with Lucy Reynolds, so I think if we see the Peter Bark video, Lucy is quite on there. And she also got me involved in Keep Out National Health Service Public last year. Unfortunately, we failed to stop the iniquitous bill from becoming law, but the fight goes on. We know that, that's why we're here. What we need is more public awareness and public support to challenge what's happening to our health service behind closed doors. I mean, Helen, I think, has described very, very exactly what is going on. And it's going on all over the country. This is not just here, it's not just in Oxfordshire, it's actually all over the country. And it's happening rapidly as they can do it, remembering that we have an election in 10 months' time or thereabouts. However, I don't see the marketisation and privatisation of the NHS as a conspiracy by evil people. We have to be very careful about taking that view. And I'm not being naive here. What I'm saying is it is simply a view that the neoliberal perspective on this world, the world that we live in, is now the dominant view. Competitive markets work, okay, is the accepted doctrine. Well, actually, they don't. Let me tell you as an economist, they don't. It's a fundamentally mistaken view that people are seduced into believing in. And challenging the view requires both strong grassroots lobbying action and a set of coherent opposing arguments. I think Keep Our National Health Service Public provides both. So let me explain about one of the battlegrounds, the TTIP, Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, or as it more commonly known, the EU-US trade deal. I'm going to try and simplify what is a somewhat complicated technical sort of issue. So how is this broad trade deal, which everybody thinks is a good idea, more trade, and there will be some potential benefits, and I stress the word potential, you can't work it out beforehand what the benefits are going to be. But how is it going to affect the NHS? That's the key. Essentially in two ways. The current rapid development of the marketisation and the privatisation are going to be strongly encouraged by allowing large US health companies even easier access than they have at the moment to the provision of health and social care services in the UK. And the second important point is unless health and social care services are specifically and explicitly exempted from the coverage of the trade and investment deal, then a Labour government in 2050, even if it, assuming it wants to, would find it virtually impossible to repeal the Health and Social Care Act. That's a genuine problem. It will be very, very difficult. And also the existence of the ISDS, which is the Investor State Dispute System Procedure. Don't worry about that. Basically what that procedure does permits private companies, including large US HBOs and the UK companies, including pharmaceutical companies, to challenge regulations and public interest laws on a purely commercial basis. Other legal arguments, relating to safety requirements, staff competences, etc., would not be allowed as legal counter-arguments to the commercial positions and the commercial legal propositions in any challenge. So this means essentially that the wishes of democratically elected governments will be overruled by unelected large commercial corporations. So what does Keep Our National Health Service Public doing to challenge this so-called trade and investment partnership? I was brought in at national level with KNP to actually try and help to see how we should try and challenge it. Some of my colleagues want to challenge the whole trade deal. I am not of that view. I think KNOP needs to focus on protecting the NHS. Because the problem is, I've always believed as a trade union negotiator in massive force to secure limited objectives. And I think if we broaden it to try and knock down the whole US trade deal, US-EU trade deal, well, for a start, it won't work. We won't win. But if we, manage to have a narrow, clear focus on what we want to achieve in relation to the NHS, then we can do that. And we can, because the two specific features of the deal which threaten the NHS as a public service is provided not on a market basis, but on the basis of solidarity and universality. Interestingly, that's currently still the EU formal legal position. People don't understand this, but it's actually true. The EU regards health and social services as being provided on the basis of universality and solidarity. They are not market services currently. And it is likely that that may be challenged. And there are a number of people in the Commission, including some of the people negotiating the trade deal, who don't believe that. But that is the position at the moment. So as far as keep our national health service public is concerned, we call for health and social care services to be explicitly exempted from the treaty, and also that the investor-state dispute system to be removed completely from the Transatlantic Trade Investment Partnership, the deal. And we've called upon the UK government, the European Commission and the European Parliament to reject any treaty which does not conform to that very clear and explicit position. It's a clear and focused position, and one which I think, if it's promoted widely and strongly, will succeed. The trade unions would like to extend the same protection to all public services, and KNOP is quite supportive of that. But in our campaigning, we need to concentrate our lobbying on the narrower area related directly to the NHS, its professional standards, and key ancillary services and products. It's not just purely the NHS. The problem with the US trade deal is that if we don't get this, there is a response likely from the negotiators on both sides. What they will try to do is to actually redraft the text of the current positions. We mustn't be seduced by that, because it is based also on the Canadian trade deal, which is still not formally agreed, but is broadly speaking there. And the danger, I think, is that it's no use health services not being included in the services which are subject to the trade deal. They must be specifically excluded. There is a difference there, which is very, very important. So we don't want to be fobbed on by some redrafting of the treaty articles, which leave us actually in the same position. So that's actually critical. Now, currently, the Labour Party appears to be committed to this position. I say appears to be, but they, as far as I know, they are. I mean, I've directly intervened to try and make sure that happens, and Andy Burnham has actually accepted that. Whether or not that will follow through, and indeed, if there's a Labour government, whether Andy Burnham would be Health Secretary is an interesting point. But at the moment, the commitment is there, and the trade union movement, nationally, in the EU and internationally, is supporting this position. But we need to ensure victory, and to do that, we need the general public to understand the importance of resisting this corporate encroachment on our right to take back the UK health and social care services. It's gone a long way, unfortunately, but we can, and I'm an optimist, I think we can bring it back to what it should be. If there's enough public support, we need that. We need our health services as a universal public provision, based, as I say, on solidarity and on trust. Hopefully tonight we can make some move forward with all of us here in this endeavour. Thank you.